Well, hello, and thank you for coming back and joining us for this panel. Each of our panelists has come to health IT after a distinguished career in other aspects of their background. And so to start us out, what I wanted to do was ask Mr. Henrik, Dr. Fern, and Dr. Alwi each to tell you how they kind of ended up on this stage. What they did before, and how they ended up in health information technology work. So, Mr. Henrik?
Thank you, Kathleen. My background is an engineering and technology background, and I came into healthcare from a career in management consulting, where my focus was on how to make good use of technology in a large number of different organizations. What really attracted me to healthcare is, of course, the amount of technology and data that's in this space, the pace of innovation, which I think is huge here, but also that the technology is really used for a purpose of providing better support for patients, for doctors, and really do something quite meaningful. So I'm very happy to be here today.
Dr. Fern?
Thank you. So mainly I am the cardiologist and mainly focus on the clinical cardiology. And first of all, previously I'm not good at technology at all. But when the InterSystems comes to our hospital, the B&H hospital, in about late 2023, yes, I find out that this one is a new thing that I have to explore, because we have the vision to build the single EMR platform in our hospital. So I have to learn about it, because I have to use this anyway in my daily workflows. So I believe that the system could help us to be more easier and more efficient for our work. So I think it's worth learning and investing time in. And it's helpful for myself, like the clinicians, and also add value to help the others users in the hospital to connect to the system too.
And Dr. Alwi, you are a cardiac surgeon. How did you end up working with health IT?
Thanks, Kathleen. Yes, I'm a cardiac surgeon, and that's still the day job. I haven't given up cardiac surgery. But IT is, in a way, a lot like surgery. It's 0 and 1. It's binary. Patients either live or they die. That's cardiac surgery. So I've always been involved on the IT side of the hospital. I was on a team that evaluated MedTrack for the hospital in 1999 in South Korea. And we've implemented risk stratification models in IJN, the National Heart Institute in Kuala Lumpur, PASNet, Euroscore, and we'll soon be rolling out our AI-generated model. So it's always been very exciting for me, and I'm honored to be part of the team.
Excellent. Well, each of our panelists comes from a very prestigious private healthcare organization here in Southeast Asia. We have 2 from Thailand, 1 from Malaysia. And you've each implemented some pretty major changes recently. Mr. Henrik, you recently took, 5,000 users in the move from TCUI to MEUI. Can you talk to us about some of the challenges of that? What were the successes, and why it was worth it to you?
Well, the first thing I'd say is it would have been much easier to do it today with all of the nice benefits that we see from IntelliCare. We didn't have that benefit. We were moving to just MEUI from TCUI. There were several reasons why we were making this move. One was that we just continuously wanted to make upgrades and changes to our system. And at some point, we realized that these changes were not possible anymore on TCUI. And we were told so from InterSystems as well, that, look, many of these things that you're asking for would be coming to you automatically if you're using MEUI. So that was one, that really being able to be at the forefront and follow the innovation. Secondly, we were quite keen on drilling deeper into our data. and moving from simple clinical notes to encounter records, where we could get some structured information out of these encounter records. You might ask why? Well, because that would actually help us in other parts of the hospital. For instance, revenue cycle management, in insurance claims. We needed to have this data in a more structured manner than what we were getting in the past. And then at the time, we heard, IntelliCare was coming, but had not really been announced yet. But certainly, there's been a big push for us to always be at the forefront of technology. So in order to do so, we almost have this policy that we need to stay up to speed with our major systems. We try to upgrade them continuously with the simple premise that if we change them once a year, then the change is much smaller than if we wait 10 years for the next change. So take smaller steps more frequently rather than taking big steps seldom is our approach.
That makes sense. Dr. Fern, B&H has moved to a completely paperless environment, or you are moving to, I'm not sure which. I know you've implemented closed-loop meds management, you've got an emphasis on analytics, and you told me in an earlier conversation that meant you had to really balance individual physician preferences and the need to get the most out of the product. Can you talk about what was involved as you went through that change?
Yeah, thank you. So for the B&H, after we have the vision to truly have the one single platform, and then we go on to the paperless system and closed loop medical system too. So that one is not easy at the first place. But when we can do it, it's very good because we can recheck everything, we can recheck every medication list of the patients in only one platform, only one page of the track care system, and that makes us easier to complete review and prevent duplicated prescriptions, can prevent the error from the handwriting, can prevent the drug interaction between the medications, especially in the complex case that have multiple doctors and have a lot of medications. Yes, that one is the big change of our hospital.
Has it had an effect on the way you personally practice medicine?
Yes, because normally we used to order in the paper, waiting for the nurses to get that. So for now, I just order with the details in the track care InterSystems, and I can see that the nurse already accept the order yet, and the pharmacist dispensing the medications yet. I can see everything completely in one page at any time and anywhere. So I think this system makes us, all the healthcare providers, since the doctors, nurses, and pharmacists, to feel more confident in the medication prescribing and dispensing, and it's more safer for the patient.
I was going to ask, because it has an impact on the patients as well, so the safety. Okay. Dr. Alwi, we heard from Delvin earlier that you have recently gone on a journey to MRAM stage 6. I know you're on a journey to stage 7. He suggested that you could tell us a little more about that journey.
Yeah. Well, we are very proud of our MRAM journey in IGN. It started off as a requirement for our Malaysian healthcare tourism flagship hospital program. Under the MHTC program, we were required to be MRAM level 7. There were 4 other flagship hospitals. They all rated 3s and 4s, but we rated 0. So that was kind of a wake-up call. We pleaded with HIMSS. We said that we scored 72 for stage 1. At least we are stage 1. But they insisted that because we didn't have the requirements for stage 1, we were 0. But what we learned from the assessment was that MRAM provided a framework for us to set up a gap analysis of where we needed to be, and therefore a task list of what we needed to achieve to get there. it also provided a way in which we could divide up the work in order to reach it. So it became something that we felt was achievable, that we could go to 0 to 6 in under a year, and the remainder of the journey in 6 to 8 months, and we are on track for that. The thing about the National Heart Institute in Kuala Lumpur is just like they were also JCI accredited.
Oh, okay.
So the JCI accreditation model mimics the MBAM model, so it's similar. It's something that the hospital is used to. You give them a task, you give them a target, you tell them this is the gap, you tell them accreditation is going to happen at this day, and they'll do the work. So we found it very useful.
So it gave you the structure to move things forward.
Absolutely, and the drive, because there's a lot of pride involved, organizational pride involved.
Has that been true for all of you, that you've been able to tap into that organizational pride as you move forward with your health IT journey?
I definitely think so, that there's, as the history of Bumrungrad, and especially in EHR systems, we built our own back in 1997, have been digital ever since. There's always been a sense of pride in being at the forefront when it comes to these type of technologies. Also an important element for us to attract doctors and clinicians to the hospital, to give them the feeling that they have a great work environment and get the best support possible.
Dr. Alwi, you have stated in presentations that you would like to see health IT move from a cost center to a revenue center.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah. Okay. Now, this is interesting because for this, I actually have to reference my CEO. My CEO is a much more accomplished business person than I am, although we are both cardiac surgeons. I've known him since we were in university. We were roommates in university. But he was always the business guy. I was always the tech guy. But my CEO is insistent that we move from overall revenue consumer to overall revenue generator. And this puts different analyses on the things that we are doing. And I think it's important for us to look at it from that lens. I'll give you an example. We talked about our risk score that we are doing using an AI generated model. We are using a random forest black box, and this looks at 107 risk factors to calculate what is the risk of a patient undergoing adult cardiac surgery at the National Heart Institute. The thing about this is, once we announced that we were going to be launching this, and we will be launching this in a couple of weeks at the National Cardiac Surgery meeting in Kuala Lumpur, the other cardiac centers in KL want to adopt it as well. They can't adopt it unless they also subscribe to our registry, because it's 107 risk factors. So it suddenly becomes a business model that we could roll out. Which it never was supposed to be that. But, well, my CEO has a more business-oriented mind than I do, and he thinks that this is something that we should think about, and we'll move in that direction. So, similarly, the other parts of the MBAM7 rollout that we did, our patient app, IJN Care, we've been approached by Filipino hospitals on white labeling it for use in Filipino hospitals. Similarly, iBlood, iMilk, closed loop milk administration and closed loop blood administration modules that we developed to work with TrackCare, but are developed internally. All of these are things that hopefully we could package and white label for other hospital use. So I don't know. It's a very early stage. I do not want to oversell our capabilities, but it's certainly something that we are looking at.
So it's aspirational at the very least.
Correct.
Good.
Yeah.
So a question for all of you, and I'll let you choose who wants to answer in what order. But what do you see as the biggest changes that are taking place in healthcare today? And what are your organizations going to do to get ready for that? And the follow-on to that would be, how can InterSystems help you to be ready? We say you're already ready, but...
Well, it's not a small question, Kathleen. I think many challenges that we see. One is certainly the complexity of treatments is just increasing, and I see that trend continuing. I see no reason that should decrease. We see more complex protocols, we see more complex medicines, everything. And many of these things are then supported by data, or the need for data. So this is maybe where it comes into what can InterSystems do, and what are we doing around this. One big element is trying to bring all of this data together, and luckily we have InterSystems and Iris at the foundation where we're doing this, bringing it all into one place. But then we quickly faced with how do we navigate that data, and how do we extract insights, and hence something like IntelliCare for the single patient use case. But we are also looking beyond that on more research-based situations where we are participating in research collaborations with universities, where we have our own papers that we want to publish, and we want to look across patients and penetrate into the data this way. I think in the other room right now, they're talking about OMOP data.
I think we'll be talking about it in here in just a little while, yeah.
This is something that we're quite intrigued by, and looking across the patient population and driving these elements. And I have to add one more thing, which is that patients come to us more equipped and more educated. It has happened to us a couple of times now that we have patients that come with the printout from ChatGPT, where they put in their own symptoms as they described it, and they got ChatGPT to recommend what treatment they should have, and then they put this in front of the doctor and say, well, ChatGPT says this, you're saying that, why is that? So an important element for us, I don't think we're going to replace our doctors at all. Rather, we need to equip them with better tools so that they can feel that, okay, I have that foundation also, and I have it at my fingertips, not something that I need to do in prep work or do it on the fly as the patient is there, but it should really be readily available to our physicians to have all of this on hand, so that they can be at least as well equipped with that kind of support as some of our patients are getting.
So complex data, needing to pull it all together, needing to be able to sift through it, needing to be able to look across patients, and then dealing with those new expectations from the patients. Have your physicians felt threatened by or encouraged, or a sense of partnership when they get those requests from patients? Or all of the above?
I think that our physicians, well, look, we have 1,200 physicians in or out at our hospital, and so there's of course the entire, you see the full range. You will see some of them who are very happy doing the work that they do, and they don't necessarily get involved in this. But we have other physicians that are quite frankly pushing and driving for, we want more technology support, we want AI in here. How come you don't let me use ChatGPT myself, which we don't because of patient privacy concerns, right? So how can we support those? So I think we need to be able to support all of them, and in order to support all of them, well, then we need to really meet the ones that have the highest requirements on technology.
Okay. What other changes are we seeing? Or do you want to build on those?
Actually, I agree with him. And other things is that the core value of our hospital, we implement like complete care. When I'm a cardiologist, I'm not take care only the heart. I also take care of the lung, the liver. We also take care about the vaccination, you complete vaccination yet, or the cancer screening. We like to have the vision of the complete care in every aspect of the one patient. And I think this is the new standard to take care of the one patient. So the InterSystem can help us to complete all the aspects of the data of the patients and we have the shorter time to review all of that because there are many aspects, many reviews of the laboratory, of the radiology to know all of that. So it's going to be good to have a brief time, the shorter time to review all of that before we discuss this with the patient, so we can focus the time with a meaningful time with the patient's interaction, that the one that wherever technology can do that instead of the human. So that's what InterSystem could help us.
That aspiration of taking care of that whole patient is a huge aspiration and something most patients don't get to experience. So, Dr. Alwi?
What we've been doing in the National Heart Institute is we've been mobilizing data, which was formerly kept in a paper folder and seen only by the patient's doctors, and getting this across into the patient's app, in which it's accessible not only by the patient, but also their family members. We have kids of patients who have undergone bypass surgery in the National Heart Institute who come to me in the clinic and say that they're super impressed because now they know exactly what was done to their dad, how their dad is doing now by his lab results, and also what medication they are on. And these are children that email us from abroad because the world now is such that the mom and dad may be back in Kuala Lumpur, but the kids are all in various parts of the world. So we have found that to be very useful. Getting the information to where it should be. The next step of this would be to get outcomes to where it should be as well, and work on predictive medicine as well. We thought we were doing really great. Today I've sat in the audience here and realized that we're just skimming the surface, that as a company, InterSystems is moving much faster than, we would need to move very quickly to keep up. We are still on TCUI. We've not moved to MEUI, much less version 2025.2 of MEUI. So I think that's a consideration that we would have to make. We are a third world country though, so all of these come at a cost in which I would have to justify to my management and my management to the board. We'll see whether we can do that. What I fear of all of this is the cost. The cost of upgrades, the cost of implementation, the cost of running. All of these, the running of an AI data server is not something, the movement of that data, sometimes across continents, is not something that we take lightly. So I guess if you ask me what can InterSystems do to help us, it's to make it a cheap enough solution that we can roll out for our patients.
You talked about the value of being able to make information available to patients and their families. I recently went through an experience with my mother who had developed unexpected heart problems, ended up in the hospital, and it was wonderful because I would say, well, what was the latest test result? And they'd say, you can already get to it in my chart. It's right there. And sure enough, I could pull up the result, and often it was well before they were doing anything with it. I could see the result. I feel as though I can follow along and know the care. But then we had to go to another hospital, and they didn't have the same data. They didn't have the same EHR. And then skilled nursing facility is giving us paper reports. And so I'm realizing, we're getting there, but we're not all there yet.
I think you're absolutely right. But if it becomes a choice into which hospital you choose, you may not choose the hospital because of the doctor. You may now choose the hospital because of the app that hospital now runs. And what information you have on the care of your loved ones moving on.
Or at least their attitude toward sharing data and making me a partner in care. I've recently been through an experience where my primary care provider reacted to a question I had that was generated from the internet. Said, well, what do you need me for if you're going to look things up? And a specialist who said, you have this diagnosis, but you knew that already. And I felt much more included and much more like, okay, we're a team working together, from the person who said, you already knew that, didn't you?
I have to say, I get quite a few, being a cardiac surgeon, I do get a few patients, more than a few patients who come to me wanting a specific way of doing their cardiac surgery. What you may refer to as keyhole surgery or minimally invasive cardiac surgery, which may not be appropriate for all, and in fact may be risky in some. And just like you said, they'll come to you with a printout saying this is what ChatGPT recommended, and what would you recommend? I always find those patients to be particularly easier to get consent from. I know that's not what you expected me to say. I know you expected me to say that I find those patients to be particularly irritating and get out of the room. No, because they have done their homework. They know what I'm then going to talk to them about. And if I do have reservations about doing it their way, their recommended way, they generally accept it. Because it's a discussion. It's a discussion in which both the doctor and the patient have their opinions on. I would refer them onwards if they insist on it. Get another surgeon to do it, not a problem, but it's not something that I could agree to. And generally they see things my way, because I can be quite persuasive.
Well, you've all kind of touched on this, and your answers have moved us in this direction, but how are you specifically preparing for AI and for the incorporation of AI within your organization? Dr. Fern?
Thank you. So in the AI era, so now it comes involved a lot in our daily lives, not only healthcare, in just everything in our lives. We already chat with the ChatGPT. And for the AI era, I think one thing that is a new thing to use AI into the healthcare, because the doctors never trained to be used the AI with the healthcare before. So this one is the things that we have to adapt to. And so the one thing that I concern is that it's not about the technology, but it's about the trust. So the doctors have to trust the AI first, then they will be confident to use it. So the AI should give us the data that complete, accurate, and update, and still keep the patient's privacy. And that's the thing that I think the AI has to prove to us first, and then we can trust it and use it.
That makes sense.
No, I agree. You made an observation there. People come first, and one of the things that we had to look over is our just consent situation, so that we are making sure that we are transparent with patients that we will use AI in one way or another, that we are asking for the right elements and right type of consent in those types of things. I think the other thing that we have done, or that we are working very hard on preparing for AI, is to sort out our data situation, because we realize that data is not just the EHR and EMR, it's other data that we want to tap into as well. So for us, we're looking now at building data fabrics that would link broader data sets that we have access to, whether those will come from financial systems, CRM systems, other things, so that we can have a foundation in addition to the data that's of course sitting in TrackCare, to support AI in a broader sense. That is another area that we've started preparing. I would say we're not there yet. We have a long ways to go, but it's going to be a very, very important part to have that data handy if we want to use agentic AI all over the hospital, which is what we want to do.
So we need to build trust. We need to bring in the data from lots of sources and make sure it's well curated. What else?
Well, for me, I'm attending meetings like this and taking pictures of the screen so that we set up our governance for AI. The thing about governance for AI is something that I think we cannot take for granted, in the sense that doctors essentially, with apologies to Dr. Fern here, she's probably the one exception in the room, generally are very lazy people. You give them an easy way of doing it, they'll take the easy way every time. And what I worry about AI is they'll take the easy way out when the AI generates a plan of action and doesn't take the time to read and think about the finer points of what the AI is generating. I know we always say that it's a tool, that in the end, it's a doctor that decides whether or not the decisions made by the AI is implemented. But seriously, is this going to happen every time? Because it has to happen every time. So I think we've got to build those guardrails. We've got to make sure that those guardrails are adhered to. And we've got to make sure that nobody flies off the rails, because the ones that fly off the rails won't be the doctor, it'll be the patient. So I worry about that day.
That's a good point. We wanted to take a few minutes for any questions from the audience. I believe we have somebody with a mic. Did anyone have a question you wanted to pose to one of our panelists? If so, could you please stand up? No questions? Did we put you to sleep? All right, well, while we see if there are any other questions, let me follow up on a couple things. At least one of you have said you don't allow people to be using ChatGPT on their own. One of my tasks over the 45 years or so that I've been in health IT was that when the US implemented privacy rules, what we call HIPAA, we went through a time period where people had to say, if you're looking at a chart you're not entitled to look at, you're going to leave. We're going to put in strict governance, and we're going to monitor who's looking at information and whether they have the right to look at that information, and we're going to enforce that. Do you think we're going to see a similar reckoning around the way AI is used? You talked about having to build the discipline to review things. We've heard anecdotally from the analysts we speak with that virtually 100% of the physicians they talk with are using some form of LLM-based tool, whether or not it's sanctioned. Do you see a time when your organizations may have to say, no, we have to control this, and if you're not willing to follow the rules, you're not going to practice here? Or is that too strict or too rigid?
I think it's realistic to expect that if you do not implement an AI solution, then your physicians are going to make their own. So the way to control it, the way to stay ahead of this particular curve, is to make sure that you roll out the hospital-sanctioned AI solution. I think if hospitals were to sit on this for another year, then they would have missed the boat, because their physicians would have done it already. It's a tool. It's a very powerful tool, and it's a very attractive tool. To expect that they won't do it, even now, almost every work recommendation letter, almost every presentation that happens in the hospital has some amount of AI influence in it. Microsoft gives Copilot with every single PC, so to expect that it does not get used, I think is is expecting too much. We also, for example, have a rule in our hospital that they are not allowed to use WhatsApp to discuss patient information. But does that get followed? I'm afraid not.
And I think, just to build on that, I think the time is now, the time is actually a year ago, right? We're way past that point. I like very much what you're suggesting. We need to provide the alternative. If the hospital is not providing a better alternative, then the users will find a way to use this. So we've been, from our side, quite proactive in trying to, well, one, putting a policy in place and training everyone in the hospital on this policy. That has been one element. Second has been to find stopgap solutions in the interim, while we don't have IntelliCare yet, although I hope we can have it soon. We have been providing access to controlled versions. There are enterprise versions of some of these systems, so we are big users of enterprise versions of ChatGPT or Perplexity or other types of things where we are assigning, we're giving rights to specific users that have been specifically trained on what to do and what not to do, but also because it's in an enterprise environment, getting the guarantee from those companies that our data will not be trained on. They will not keep the data. They will not train on that data. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, especially one of my responsibilities is IT. If I don't provide those tools and those solutions to the users in the hospital, then they will find a way around it.
And I think implied in that is providing them with the training in how to understand it and use it appropriately. Dr. Fern?
Okay, I'm absolutely agree with all of this. And may I add another aspect of the ChatGPT using? In the other day, it's just like a simple example that the patient comes to me to consult about the cholesterol control, and when I give him advice and the choice of the treatments about the medications, he pulled out his smartphone and read the ChatGPT to compare what I say and with the ChatGPT data. Yes, and but with the polite manner. So at that time, actually I appreciate the self-care mindset of him, and I think that this one reflects that the patients now have when they have the self-care mindset, they always seek for the information in the era that it's very easy to approach the data. So this one is not about the patients not trust the doctor anymore, but they just want to confirm that they will get the best care of themselves. So I think we have to aware about the patient's expectations and our treatment to be complete. So this one is another point. Thank you.
Definitely a time of massive cultural change. When I grew up, the doctor always knew the right answer, and nobody questioned it. But I'm dating myself. Okay, let's close with one final question. You've learned a lot as you've moved from your various roles in health IT, as you've implemented track care, as you've implemented other systems, you've put in AI projects, you've done research. What's the one piece of advice that you'd give other informatics leaders who want to help their organizations prepare to be ready for the future?
Well, I mean, this is an evergreen, I guess. It's being very engaged with the users and going from a problem-first mentality rather than a solution-first mentality. I think we have a lot of, what I'm seeing in our organization is that many vendors, many system providers will approach our doctors directly, and then we are starting with a proposed solution to something that is very nebulously defined as it's not even a problem. We're sort of, how can we fit this in, instead of saying, look, let's think about what will give us the most benefit, and then let's find the solution for that.
But it looks really cool.
It does.
Okay.
Okay, for me, I think the most challenge time is in the early 2024 that we went live the trachea in our hospital. So even we try to prepare a lot, there's still problems anyway, especially in the first about 2 weeks. There's a lot of problems to have to fix in every day. So my tips, I think that everything it's hard to be perfect, but we have to be realistic. We have to have like the flexibility in the problem solving at that time. I cannot fix completely at that time, but I have to balance between the clinician's needs, listen to them a lot, and try to balance that with the technical design of the InterSystem and figure out the practical solutions at that time to try to not interrupt the workflows every single day. So I think the flexibility listens a lot. That is the point.
I would be exactly as Dr. Fern says. Listen and be mindful that your team has to constitute the wide range of what happens in your hospital. The thing about us doctors is we think that what we do is the most important thing in the world. It's not. The nurses, the pharmacists, the lab techs, the whole lot, when you digitize a process, needs to be involved in the process and needs to have a say. And the solution needs to encompass all of that. If not, it does not work. And key to all of that, the backbone of this new organization that you will be making is IT. And if you don't involve IT in each one of those processes, then it's going to fail as well. So it's a balancing act that you've got to do. At the same time, convince management that it's not going to cause the earth and bankrupt the hospital also. Convince the board that you can deliver this in the time that you promise, and it's not going to be another failed project. So you need to do all of that, and if you are able by some miracle to do all of that, then they'll pat you on the back and you'll get MBAM level 6 and you'll be working towards 7. Otherwise, you need to find a job in another hospital.
Well, that's a great ending. Thank you all very much, and I know my longtime colleague Steve from class is going to be talking a little more about how do we get to true value. So,
Thank you so much, Kathleen. Thank you to all.